Hello and welcome to GB News' stall at ARC Conference. It's been a wonderful conference and I'm delighted to make it even more wonderful still by being joined by the wonderful Nile Gardiner. Nile, thank you for your time
It's
today.
my pleasure. Great to be here, Darren.
Now, Nile, you have been tweeting today about your disgust at what you've seen on the streets of Britain today.
Yes.
London's Liverpool Street.
Yeah.
A train station, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
It's a pretty busy train station.
Certainly is. Yeah.
And it was completely occupied by pro-Palestinian protest. Now, does this suggest, Niall, not only that we have one or two, dare I say, dissenting voices out there, but actually also that law and order in this country is entirely one-sided?
Yes, I agree. And I do think that what we are seeing right now is outrageous support on the streets of London for Hamas. We have people openly supporting a terrorist organisation, calling for jihad. We have Islamist extremists, basically, who seek the destruction of Israel. Many of them would seek the destruction of Great Britain as well. We need to have the law applied. There should be zero tolerance for anti-Semitism, zero tolerance for those who are advocating terrorism or supporting terrorist organisations. And frankly, the police are not acting against these protesters. They are not making any significant number of arrests. And we are openly seeing supporters of terrorism on the streets of London. They have no respect for the rule of law. They have no respect, as far as I can see, for Great Britain either. And so it's a very worrying state of affairs that we are seeing here in the United Kingdom. And we are seeing basically an atmosphere of menace, intimidation, open threats being made, violence, and an open support for the most barbaric terrorist movement of our time alongside ISIS, which is Hamas. And it's absolutely unacceptable. It is time for the British government to act decisively against this.
I mean, Niall, to what extent do you believe that, we've closed the barn door, but the horse is already significantly bolted, and now the horse has galloped so far away that we can't see it anymore? Because so many people are worried, so many viewers are writing in saying, look, I think mass migration to this country and succour and support for those who do not support Britain or our views, and we've given them council houses to former Hamas leaders, for example. All of these other things as well, where actually we are frankly mugs in this game.
No, you're absolutely right. And I do think what the Home Secretary has said, that multiculturalism has been a huge failure. She's absolutely right. And we've had decades of mass migration into the United Kingdom, frankly, without the consent of the British people. I don't think the British people ever voted for this, and we're seeing the results of that on the streets of London right now. Large numbers of protesters basically supporting Hamas, and there's also, frankly, some deep-seated anti-Semitism that we are seeing, which is incredibly dangerous. That should never be tolerated in the United Kingdom, and it's time to put an end to mass migration. Also, any foreign nationals of British soil who are supporting terrorism, they should be deported. They should not be here in the United Kingdom, and we should see the British government acting decisively, applying the law, existing legislation, prosecuting those who are supporting terrorism. If they're foreign nationals, they should be out of the country. They should not be here in the UK.
And what sort of action then can we take domestically for those who aren't foreign nationals, who have been homegrown, as it were?
And you do have a significant number of Islamist extremists, for example, who are British nationals alone. We should be seeing arrests, detention, prosecutions, the jailing of those who support terrorist movements. It's all there under existing British law. It needs to be applied by a Conservative government. We need to see strong leadership from the Prime Minister on this issue. And this should not be a matter of debate. I mean, we have the law in place, and we should be prosecuting those who break the law, who pose a national security threat to the United Kingdom. There should be arrests, prosecutions, and frankly, these individuals should be in jail. They should not be out on the streets.
And do you think then, seeing the scenes of, there was a man on social media that we've all seen on Twitter and elsewhere, that, or X rather, I get wrong for calling it Twitter these days. Do you think then, seeing the scenes of people being arrested for criticising a sea of Palestinian flags in their area, that actually the police it's quite clear, the evidence would suggest, that the police remain absolutely terrified of accusations of racism.
Yes.
And that's what motivates them in only going after one side of the argument here.
It's absolutely outrageous what we're seeing. The police have been weak-kneed, ineffective. I think that's a result of poor leadership. But also, of course, you have a mayor in London, Sadiq Khan, who is a far-left extremist, frankly. And so there's no leadership, of course, from the mayor, who tolerates, even fosters these large demonstrations which are expressing a great deal of hatred. These demonstrations are about hate. They're not about peace. And so we see the police taking very little action. They're not even listening to the Home Secretary. And the Home Secretary saying the police have got to act. Suella Braverman has made this 100% clear. The police are not acting. Poor leadership, I think, from the heads of the Metropolitan Police, but also the Mayor of London has been an absolute disgrace. And Sadiq Khan, I think, is a big part of the problem. In terms of doing absolutely nothing about what we are seeing. Lawlessness, we're seeing the occupation of train stations. We are seeing British citizens being threatened, especially Jewish British citizens. A culture of fear, which is completely unacceptable. My former boss, Margaret Thatcher, would have been absolutely appalled by what's happening in London. She would have intervened as if she was Prime Minister today. She would be putting an end to all of this.
Absolutely.
And she would be saying to these far-left protesters that there will be consequences for their actions and the government will act against them.
So, Niall, just finally, our very own Nigel Farage says actually the Conservative Party's had its day, right? It needs to die now before it can ever get its act together. A lot of people are saying actually I've fallen out of love with the Conservative Party, that wonking massive majority, stonking majority in 2019 that it was given by the electorate has been wasted, is the belief, is the view by many. Do you think it can get its act together, or do you think actually it is destined to die?
Well, the Conservative Party, of course, is the oldest political party in the world, the most successful. It needs to get its act together, and it can only be successful if it actually advances conservative policies. And what we're seeing right now on the streets of London with this lawlessness, anarchy, and all these massive pro-Hamas demonstrations, a Conservative government's got to deal with it. If they're not going to deal with it, I think a lot of Conservative voters are going to walk away. A Conservative Party can only continue to thrive, be successful, if it actually lives up to its name as the Conservative Party. So look at the example of Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill. That's the kind of leadership that we need right now. Frankly, we're not seeing that. But that's what we need to see in Britain, because Britain is a truly great nation. This is a nation that for centuries has stood up as a beacon to the world. And it needs to apply the rule of law, act against those who seek the destruction of Britain. They are the enemies of the United Kingdom, the enemies of the British people. The British government has to stand up for the British people, enforce the rule of law, ensure the streets are safe, and ensure that the evils of anti-Semitism, the evils of Islamist terrorism and extremism are fundamentally defeated. That's what we expect from a Conservative government.
Absolutely, and if it doesn't get its act together before our national act of remembrance, of course, on Remembrance Sunday, I think they will pay a price at the ballot box for not having robustly defended the cenotaph, for example. Yeah,
they've got to stand up for Britain. They have to stand up as well for all of those who gave their lives to defend the British people in the First and Second World Wars and in multiple wars. The British government has to stand up for them, for their memory, for their sacrifice, and ensure that these Islamist extremists do not threaten everything that this great nation stands for, and do not threaten the sacrifices of those who gave their lives for this wonderful great nation.
Indeed. Niall Gardiner, thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.